There was just nothing to explain it, nothing. It was just very, very scary.
You are about to see real people
This is not normal.
reliving horrifying paranormal encounters for the first time.
And it would keep coming, creeping up my leg.
Never in a million years did I think that it would happen in my home.
I buried this for nearly 30 years.
Be prepared to be afraid.
Sika's interview.
After years of dating, Sika Groves and her boyfriend Dave were starting their life together in Dave's parents' basement.
We went to visit the antique store to pick up something special, something that we thought would be our own. Everybody else had given us things, so we really wanted to get something that we thought was unique and sort of said who we were. When I first saw the washstand, it just stood out because it was a classic, probably about 1870s Victorian washstand. But it was just really unique and really different, and we fell in love with it.
Little did Sika know that the washstand had brought something else along with it into her home, something a lot less welcome.
At first, it was just lights going off and on, or cupboard doors opening. Those kinds of things that you sort of think, maybe somebody left the light on or left the cupboard door open. But then you start to wonder because you're the only one home. But I didn't say anything at the time because I thought maybe they're going to think I was crazy. I just remember going into the kitchen and there was this huge ripping sound. And it just sounded like a huge piece of fabric being torn, but really violently torn. And there was nobody home. I was the only one there.
Other odd things began to happen. One night, Sika had friends over for dinner.
We were sitting at the table in the kitchen, and the coffee maker just shifted out into the middle of the table and then back against the wall. And then it did it a second time, and we all were, just sort of jumped up and was like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, what's happening to us?
Eventually, Sika and Dave married. They moved into a new house and had a baby boy. But this was no home sweet home. Something evil had moved in too. And soon, Sika and Dave were turning on each other.
I am done! We are over!
The marriage over, Sika moved into her own place with her young son. But she took the washstand too. It was a bad decision.
There's a conception that spirits can only attach to a location, where in fact they can attach themselves to a person, a place, or a thing. But to them, it's something important, something that connects them back to the world of the living. If it's an angry spirit, it can just start wreaking havoc throughout the house.
This house was when a lot of activity started, a lot more than what we had had previously.
For example, Sika's son, now 5, had a new playmate that no one could see.
By this time, my son had given him a name. I'd go upstairs and he'd be in his room talking, and I'd be like, who are you talking to? And he'd go, oh, it's Lenny, Mom. Like it was nothing.
Was it just an imaginary friend or something else?
And then he'd go, don't you see him? He's wearing a white shirt and black pants. And I'm like, no, I don't see him. So what I did say to him is, I'm like, don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. Just, if he comes and bothers you, you come and tell me. I had bought my son this teddy bear that could tell stories. And you put a little cassette tape in and it would tell stories. And there was a couple of times where the bear just started going off, like talking, and the tape would start to play. It was like the tape would go, and it would go slow, and then it would speed up. And I thought maybe it's being worn, it's breaking. So I just took the batteries out of the bear. And it came on. Even without the batteries in it, the bear came on. I didn't want anything interfering with my child, right? I mean, I'm a mom.
This presence, whatever it was, interfered with Sika too. Turns out, it had something of a jealous streak.
When I started to date again, anytime a new guy would come over to the house, things would start to happen.
Sika Groves had tried to escape the paranormal activity that plagued her by moving to a new house. But she brought her beloved washstand, and trouble moved in right along with her.
Anytime a new guy would come over to the house, things would start to happen.
What the hell?
They would say, something's touching me, something's poking me. There was a point where I felt comfortable with the guy that I was seeing staying over. The first night that he stayed over, it was maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, and I could hear a little toy cell phone that my son had going off in the hallway. And so I got up. I got up out of bed to see if my son was up. and there wasn't anything there. The noise stopped as soon as I opened the bedroom door, and my son was fast asleep in his bed. I headed back to the bedroom, and when I walked into the room, it was dark, but I could see that my boyfriend was just lying stiff in the bed and staring at the ceiling, and he was shaking. And I was like, "What's wrong with you?"
What's the matter?
And he's like, "It's sitting on the bed, it's sitting on the bed, it's sitting on the bed, it's sitting on the bed." And he was petrified.
There's something on the end of the bed.
He was so scared, he got up and he left.
Honey, where are you going?
He just, up and left. It was 4:30 in the morning, and he wouldn't stay.
Where are you going?
Oh, I was mad. I mean, I was angry just because of what had happened, right? And I was really mad. And I was like, "Why are you doing this? Stop doing this. You're ruining my life." I think that was really the crux of when I felt like I have to do something. My boyfriend's mother had suggested that we bring somebody in that could do feng shui. She sort of said, maybe you have bad energy flow in the house, and there's things that they can help you realign the energy. And if there's bad things there, they can, make them leave. And I'm thinking, okay, it sounds crazy enough that it just might work.
This?
The feng shui expert immediately zeroed in on the washstand.
And she says, "You're a magnet. You attract them." And I was like, "What? No, what are you talking about? I don't attract any." She says, "That's why it's here. It might have come with the furniture, but it's here because of you."
The best way to remove a spirit from a house, when you're dealing with an object, maybe an antique that you have purchased somewhere, it would be a good idea to get rid of that antique, not to give to someone else that you don't like, but to get rid of the object altogether. And that way you're getting rid of the attachment to that object, whether you bury it, some people want to burn it, but just get rid of it altogether. It's just a better way to do it.
What are we gonna read today? What are you gonna read to me?
Only then did things get back to normal.
It just says the horse sticking.
My son wasn't seeing him anymore, and things just weren't happening. For me, mentally, it made a big difference.
Not every spirit is so easy to dispose of. Some entities even go viral, infecting one person after another, leaving terror and havoc in their wake.
I've always had an interest in the paranormal, but, I never ever thought that I'd ever experience one.
It started as an ordinary day. Susan Hayes was having coffee at her friend's house. Someone, or something, decided to join them too.
I could sense this entity, and it would start out like a coldness in the bottom of my foot, like it was entering my body. And it would keep creeping up my leg, and I would just close my eyes and recite the Lord's Prayer over and over again, "Our Father art in heaven," and I kept redoing it, and it would just kind of go away again.
Are you okay?
Sue's friend told her that she too was having weird sensations. They began as soon as she brought in a mutual acquaintance to rent a room.
There was a girl that they let stay for a few weeks. She was in between residences, and she had went in there one night and heard her chanting.
Susan Hayes had experienced strange sensations while at her friend's house. But that wasn't the only weird thing going on there.
There was a girl that they let stay for a few weeks. She was in between residences, and she had went in there one night and heard her chanting. She peeked in the room, and she was doing some type of a ritual on the floor. Then she just suddenly moved out about a few weeks later.
When you're dealing with ceremony and rituals, depending on the intention of that ceremony, if your intention is to be ill-willed or to just open the door to anything, you can invite anything into the house, even evil spirits, and most likely the people you don't want to come into that room.
Sue and her friend decided to cleanse the house. But they really should have left it to the experts.
We just kind of went online to try to find out what we should do. So we just kind of tried to handle it ourselves initially, but, you know, it was honestly a big mistake. So as soon as we started reading the Bible and smudging, the little wooden case just slid right across the front of us.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Needless to say, we kind of screamed and ran out the door. It terrified us quite a bit. I knew that she had summoned something into their home and they had only tried to help her, so I was very upset. About 2 weeks after, my friend's family just decided to move. They just had had enough and they decided not to try to fight it. I was just in my room, just relaxing, watching TV, and all of a sudden I felt that cold, horrible, evil sensation again that I felt over at my friend's house.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
And I immediately knew it was there. I just knew. And I was terrified.
It seemed that the entity had found a new victim in Sue. It decided to have a little fun with her.
There would be scratching in the walls you could hear. Another time I could hear crashing up in the attic. So it would just do anything it could just to disturb you in the middle of the night. It was antagonizing me so badly that I honestly thought I was going to lose my mind. I had just bought in the house, so I was not going to move out. So I just, I was determined to get rid of this thing.
It was time to call in an expert. Sue contacted paranormal investigator Michelle DeRoche.
When Sue sent me an email, I immediately felt drawn to her. Right off the bat, I could feel the desperation in it.
When I reached out to Michelle, I just gave her a vague message. I think we have a ghost problem.
Hi. Hi.
Michelle brought along a psychic to help with the investigation.
Nice to see you. This is Tyler.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Tyler, he walked into my house and my cat went right to him, which was unusual in itself because my cat always hid from company. It's meowing at him like, meow, meow. And he starts answering it. He's like, oh, thank you. And I'm like looking like, what? He says, oh, I can communicate with animals. And then the cat kept beckoning Tyler to follow. And, you're just like, what? And the cat showed him where the same woman who had done the ritual at the other house had hidden things in my home as well.
It seems this person left several of Satan's calling cards.
We found small pieces of mirror throughout the house, which I guess I found afterwards can act as a portal or an entry place into my home. We had found jars of urine hidden up in the rafters as well. From what I gather, that was a way that she could kind of hold claim to my home.
A lot of that has to do more with the occult, working around the black arts. They will leave things like that on the premises, and they will take something out of the home. It's like an exchange almost.
Terrified, Sue pleads with them to cleanse her house.
He basically did a smudging ceremony, where he would come in with just a big sage smudge stick.
Michelle and Tyler hadn't prepared for a full cleansing and would need to come back. So Michelle gave Sue some tips for how to keep this spirit at bay until she returned.
Michelle instructed me to just to be very diligent, try to smudge daily. She gave me some exercises to do, like salt baths, stuff like that, so that it personally couldn't infest me, because it certainly did try all the time.
And we taught her basically how to kind of keep her environment calm.
But what Michelle didn't know when she left was that this virus from hell had attached to her and was about to infect her family. Paranormal investigator Michelle DeRoche had taken the first steps toward ridding Sue Hayes' home of sinister forces. Problem was, those same forces had come to roost in Michelle's home as well.
I was 14 years old when she started doing the investigations. I didn't believe in much of anything until things started happening to me.
I could hear her calling my name.
I can't see.
I went over to her room and I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, I can't see. I'm like, what do you mean you can't see? She goes, I can't see.
Mom, come here. I can't see.
What's going on?
I can't see, Mom.
Nothing?
No, I can't see anything.
Like, I couldn't make out shapes. I couldn't make out anything other than the fact that I could tell, the sun was out. I could tell that it was a little bit lighter of a darkness than, complete pitch black.
Okay. All right.
It really isn't uncommon for a medium who has cast out an evil spirit to have that evil spirit come back in some way or form and try to get revenge.
Brought her in, and he's like, her eyes look healthy. I don't even know what to say, but let's get all the tests done and let's see what's going on. They took pictures of the inside of her eyes. Everything was healthy. We even had her see a psychologist. So we explored everything, mental, physical. Nobody had any answers for us.
Unable to find a medical cause, Michelle's doctor suggested something not found in any medical textbook.
He said, I'm just going to throw this out there. Could you maybe have worked on something recently that might have caused this? I have been working professionally with the paranormal probably for the last, I would say, 12 years. Never in a million years did I think that it would happen in my home.
Michelle quickly organized a seance at her home.
It was the same being. We were set to go back, and we were going to finish the job. And I said, did you do this?
Did you do this? Did you take my daughter's sight?
All it said was, stay away. I said, fix this. And I'll stay away. I won't go back.
If you leave her alone, I'll leave you alone.
Michelle wanted to deal with the devilish spirit, bring back her daughter's sight, and she would never return to Sue's house to finish her cleanse.
This is done.
I gave my eyes a good rub, and it was like, it was never a problem in the first place. It was the weirdest, strangest thing. It just came back. I was like, Mom, my eyes they're working. I can see.
Mom, I can see.
And I stayed true to my word. I never returned. Never returned.
And Susan Hayes learned to manage her uninvited house guest using the techniques Michelle taught her. She's kept the evil at bay ever since. Most spirits do arrive uninvited. But Tammy Dean's obsession with the other world seemed to give them permission to come knocking.
was living in Sault Ste. Marie, and it was downtown. I was living with my daughter, and I had a lot of overnight guests during this time.
Tammy and her friends began fooling around with the spirit board.
I don't even remember where we got it from, but we started out with just a regular board that you can buy. I was always interested in that kind of thing, and it intrigued me. I wanted to know if it worked. There were 4 of us that played on a regular basis. But I didn't realize how serious it could become. We thought it was just a game. It started out with just dead grandparents, things like that. We wanted more out of it, so we started asking for things like Elvis, and graduated from there to asking for the devil. If it was dead, we asked for it.
Tammy asked for it all right. Soon enough, the group began to get more than messages.
It was giving us yes and no answers to our questions, and from there it just kept telling us a story. And as we got into it more, we started taking notes so that we could, keep track of what was being told.
Who are you?
We asked for, the certain spirit to come in.
What do you want from us?
You would see the candles going out. Or making weird smoke patterns, I guess. I was scared, yes. That was when I didn't understand what was going on. Everything seemed to just be different in the air, and it's not so much that you could see it, it was the fact that you could feel where it was. We would hear a lot of knocking noises. We would hear growls continuously.
Tammy Deans and her friends had been using a spirit board to speak with the dead, but when the dead started talking back, they should have ended the conversation.
We would hear a lot of knocking noises. We would hear growls continuously. I just could feel my skin crawl and my hair stand on the back of my neck. The shadow figures were there pretty much nightly. They would come and go, at least 1, sometimes 2 or 3. And they were huge. It wasn't necessarily a human form. We would all be sitting at the table, and there's nobody else in the apartment with us except the baby in the crib way in the other room. But this figure would move where we knew we weren't moving, so that we knew that we weren't making it. At first, it was non-belief that we were seeing the shadow figures. Everybody was kind of looking at each other, looking for an explanation. The excitement was really high, but it was also very fearful.
In the wrong hands, the spirit board can bring up anything you don't want. When you have a negative entity that comes through and you have an open invitation to that negative entity, that's who's going to come through, and not always a loved one.
The paranormal activity was taking a toll.
Once we were done playing the spirit board, I had to go back to my regular life for the next few hours, and it was very hard to ignore the fact that there was all this activity going on in the home that I was living in. But my obsession took over. We weren't into drugs or alcohol. This was our obsession. This was our addiction. There was one particular night, and it's still unbelievable. My friend that was playing with us, she was sleeping on the floor. And she started dreaming and flailing around. We were trying to wake her up, and she started literally talking in what I believe to be tongues. At least 10, maybe even 15 minutes it took for her to finally come around. And when she woke up, her eyes were bloodshot, and she didn't remember anything about the dream or us trying to wake her up. I really thought that she may have been possessed at some point. It definitely scared all of us.
Once you have opened that door with the spirit board, there can be a lot of horrible consequences. The spirits can become dangerous, and there are even many cases of possession as a result. Using a spirit board is just inviting all kinds of trouble you do not need.
Still, Tammy and her friends couldn't resist using the spirit board, and it was just a matter of time before their hobby came back to haunt them.
We were looking in the window, or out the window, and you could see them outside. Two different spirits were dueling, I guess you could say. It's still unbelievable when I talk about it. It was very frightening. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it. It was one thing to see them in the apartment, but to know that they can go outside actually scared me even more.
Tammy was afraid they had gone too far. But demons turned out to be the least of Tammy's problems. Evil forces started to take over the thing most precious to her.
Billy?
Tammy Dean's and her friends' obsession with the spirit board had invited paranormal entities into her home. One night, Tammy woke up to find her daughter Billy acting strangely.
Billy? I went to go into her crib to lift her up, and her eyes scared the living daylights out of me. Everything okay? Knowing that as a mother, I'm supposed to be picking her up and taking care of her, but I'm so afraid by the look on her face and how she was staring at me with black eyes. It was very scary to know that something else could control me as a mother, where I didn't feel like I could protect her. Knowing that we were playing with such evil things, I was very worried that something would happen to her. I do believe that we released something, but the story needs to be told because there's other people out there that are just as young and innocent and maybe stupid, if you want to call it, as we were. I'm hoping that through me they can learn the lesson.
The next morning, Tammy moved out and cut all ties with the group.
Though we all live in the same city, none of us talk anymore. We don't want to have anything to do with each other anymore.
She vowed never to touch a spirit board again, and the paranormal activity came to an end.
If you're going to do it, have great respect. Don't play with it.